podcast is called Behind Closed Books. And the reason I chose the name Behind Closed Books is the stories don't just end at the end of the month. They're about all the lessons that are learned throughout the, well, life cycle of a business. There's going to be obstacles businesses have overcome. There's going to be lessons in successes, but also in the numbers themselves. People can learn some of the trends that are out there as far as the financial activity they've been through. They can see a kind of a bigger, broader scope with what businesses have been through in the past, not just these are debits and credits, but there's a story behind every number. So I want people to learn and get some education out of some stories and successes and really overturn some good information from my guests in the future.
Mm-hmm. You said something that frankly, I repeat to everyone in my team regularly. I say numbers are the way for us to understand what's going on in the business. And numbers, in fact, tell the story of what is going right and what's going wrong. Unfortunately, in our business community, not too many people know how to interpret the numbers. So it sounds to me like with your podcast, you are going to be helping people understand what the numbers are telling them.
Yeah, there's going to be not only just the trends, because the numbers themselves are just in a place. There are debits if they're expenses or credits if they're revenue. It doesn't really tell a story. But when you can see a history of expenses on the rise due to cost of labor or revenue decreasing due to downturn in the economy, those are telling a story. But beyond that, we can also see why is that happening and maybe kind of get behind the story to say, why is your revenue reducing, or why is the cost of labor increasing? Are you employing more specialized labor? Is it just the part of the industry right now where the cost of employment is going up? You want to get behind the numbers to say what are causing these trends, and then help them go through the bottom line, but even maybe go through a story of what's happening with their business and understand what they've been doing right or wrong.
Yeah. And I'm always into numbers and also financial performance of a company. Since I am the one in charge of my company, always I have to understand what's going on. But I go back to many years ago. I remember I knew nothing about accounting, I knew nothing about finance, but I was put in charge of running this company, and I was therefore responsible for producing the financials. So what happened was, at the end of the year, we were putting the financial statements together for the tax return. And there were, I don't know, something like 100 plus chart of accounts,
Right.
the ledger codes.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I sat down with our accountant and we spent about 4 hours working on stuff, and we knocked out about, I think, 8 of those codes.
Wow. Okay.
And these were codes related to the balance sheet items.
Okay.
And the balance sheet itself had about 35 or so codes.
Right.
So I said to him, his name was David, I said, David, look, we did a good job. I said 8 codes we knocked out in 4 hours. So there's 30 something altogether. So that means we have another, say, 12 hours to go, and then we'll be done.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, you schmuck. He said, just one of those codes may take us days to reconcile. So he said, so here, this is not about codes or numbers. He said, at the end of the day, the real job for me starts after we audited everything, because then I have to be able to tell the story based on those numbers. He said, numbers just help me understand what you've done. And then I have to put it in the right format to report that this is what the company has done. I always remember that to this day. And numbers at the end of the day tell the story. And what I'm getting from you is you're going to tell many stories on your podcast, right?
That's what I'm going to try and do, and tell the stories. Like you said, when you're going through the numbers, a lot of times accountants or maybe bookkeepers, we call it heads down display, which basically you put a set of headphones on, you put some music on, whatever it is, and you just do a heads down Accounting is when you're literally in that mode you were just talking about. You're coding, you're reconciling, you're in the numbers, but you're so deep in those numbers that you're swimming through and you can't see the big picture. As they say, you can't see the forest through the trees. I think that's how they say it. And what I want to try and do is pull back a bit and talk to business owners to say, what are some of the ways in which you've used these trends, or use the numbers, I should say, to create trends? And what have you learned along the way that's helped you? Maybe you saw a trending of numbers and you realize, boy, that's why I'm not doing so right now. I'm not doing a good job managing employment. I'm not doing a good job managing rent. The expenses, funny enough, the revenue handles itself. You got to work on that with the marketing team, the marketing department. You want to get the numbers right from a revenue point of view. But when it comes down to the expenses, a lot of times business owners look to accountants to say, help me. Help me with my expenses. Why is my rent too high? Or show me the trends of what's too high. What is the industry standard for rent percentage? Why am I paying 60% rent of revenue? That's too high. And we as the accountants can see that. So if we can talk to some business owners, maybe they don't even know what trends they should be looking for, and we can have those conversations. Or if they do know the trends, we can educate other business owners as to what we can start looking for.